And then last but not least, we have Ronnie, who I know has another unique perspective in his role at the Taiwan Agriculture Investment and Development Corporation. So, Ronnie, all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, esteemed Chair, Mr. Brian Pinsky, Honorable APEC member economies. My name is Ronnie Yang, and it is my honor to represent Chinese Taipei from a private and business point of view to discuss today's agenda on reducing food loss and waste. Food is vital to providing the energy and nutrients we need to push us for the long run. But how food is brought to our table comes from a long process. But I believe people need to be educated, people as in young people. People need to understand the chain of production on how food is brought from farm to table. So let's take fruits as an example. From seedling to planting to harvesting, then transporting, distributing, then storaging, then supplying, and eventually to us on the table. Every aspect of this process will lead to food loss and waste if it is not carefully treated or monitored. So during my education years, I had the opportunity and privilege to study under 4 different curriculums: local Chinese primary school, American high school system, college in Japan with 1-year study abroad in Spain, and master's in international business in San Francisco. And when I came across this topic, I looked back to all the days of my education years, and I observed how different countries dealt with food waste and loss. So during my primary school in Taiwan, they would educate the young generation during in-school meals and lunch not to waste any food. We were taught that farmers go through a long and arduous process, from sowing to transplanting the rice seedlings one by one, to plowing, to fertilizing, to harvesting, and transporting, distributing, to eventually enjoying the bowl of rice in front of you. My parents would even tell me as a kid that I had to finish every bit of my rice, or else those unfinished rice in the bowl would turn into pimples on the face of my future wife. And I want a pretty wife, ladies and gentlemen, so I try not to waste the rice in the bowl. In the US and in the Philippines, plastic straws have been slowly substituted by paper straws. In Taiwan, convenience stores, they start charging you for every plastic bag you use. And in Japan and Taiwan, restaurants penalize some customers for ordering excessive food or wasting large amount of food without finishing. And of them all, schools, residentials, and even restaurants in Chinese Taipei, they have educated and asked the population to recycle unfinished food to be later sent to farms or even used as natural fertilizers. If you walk into McDonald's in Taiwan in Chinese Taipei this time, you will see it is probably the only nation in the world that asks customers to separate the food from the trash. And I believe that's a great way to combat food waste and loss. Referencing yesterday's Dr. Lu Husen's words, food waste causes an invisible cost for the environment. And from Mr. Brian Pinsky's words, there are an inedible part to a food that results into food loss and waste. And it made me think of my family business, which is in the juice industry. Freshly picked high-quality fruits can either be exported or sold in domestic markets at a high price. The fruits will then be classified into Class A, Grade A, and Grade B. While Grade A can be sold at a good price, Grade B will usually be used towards food processing or juice. And when there's a surplus in these fruits, or when the fruits are partially damaged during harvest or transport, they might not be accepted into categories A or B. But does that mean we throw those fruits away? No. They will then be moved to other processing plants where the fruits will be processed into dried fruit chips, or for example in the Philippines they make it into the mango chips, fruit powders, or even jams, etc. To maintain the value it originally possessed, and most importantly, to reduce the waste. Take another example, the skin of the orange. When we finish processing, people throw it away. But in Chinese Taipei, we use it as a marinated orange skin for Chinese medicine. The pineapple skin, I understand in Japan, they feed it to some of the wagyu beefs. Lemon skin in Europe or in Chinese Taipei, we make it into lemon oil. We extract it and we put it into fragrance, dishwashing, or even other uses. Again, another way to add value to what people see as waste. Additionally, the boilers we use to generate heat or electricity to power up the machineries in our factories, instead of using petroleum, which emits excessive carbon dioxide, which affects greenhouse, we choose to buy the rice hull, the rice shells, from post-harvested rice from the farmers, to not only create almost no pollution, but also to create an additional value to something that some may view as useless or waste. Taken from one of my favorite childhood movies, The Lion King. The circle of life. This is the circle of life. Everything is interconnected. As one action will lead to a different outcome, national education is vital, is very important to propagandize the government's goal in reducing food waste and loss. Raising awareness amongst the population is also one of the best options to ensure all the citizens understand the direction of the country and the world. This is our planet, and we're responsible to protect and prolong its sustainability. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ronnie. That was, I think, your point about people's disconnect from the food system was a really strong perspective. And also, another point you raised actually brings me into my first sort of follow-up question for some of our panelists. You talked about the reuse of various products, and that's actually, Jacqueline, your presentation yesterday was very much about that in terms of the reuse of pieces that may not have been achieving value in the past, where you can actually make money off of it rather than throwing it away. And Marilyn, you might have some perspective on this as well from the retail perspective. To me, it seems like there's a very strong business case for using food loss mix. It doesn't have to be about a moral aspect necessarily or an environmental aspect. It just makes good business sense to be efficient. And really, business is about efficiency in many ways. So what challenges do you think there are where, you at Carrefour, you are pioneers in this, you're really leading the way in Chinese Taipei. What do you think is holding back others? And Ronnie, Jacqueline, if you have any thoughts on that, why is this not more commonplace? What's sort of holding us back from achieving what seems like it should be an obvious economic benefit, if nothing else?
I think the main issue is about each stakeholders, their benefits. Okay, for example, for Taiwan, we have a choice that I don't need to do this. I just do my business, I don't need to take any risk. I can still run my business well. So I think very important is the mindset. What's the really value and mission of your company think, the role you play. And as we know right now, we talk about SDG means all of us, no matter what kind of economies, we are one country together. So even only Darfur, if we don't do anything, doesn't mean my company will going to sustain forever. So this one, when we tell all the stakeholders as one, and then we know.
I think I agree from what Marilyn was saying. I think a lot contributes to the brand image of what your company wants to show to the outside world. And usually, I think here in Chinese Taipei, when you're working with these kind of products, people might see you as a company that needs, other people's used items or anything. But I think it comes back to the perspective of the people. I think it has to start from a young age. People have to understand that we need to do what we have to do to protect this world. So the example from creating more value to waste, for example, the rice or the skins of the fruit, these are all options for other companies to see that, okay, I can use these used orange skins to create more value instead of just throwing it away or creating more trash in the landfills. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll ask one more question, then we can open it up to the floor for other questions. I wanted to,
but I think Ryan answered, I think, most of my answer. But I want to add on and say, I think people's perspective to it is that when we look at food, you know, that's a piece of lemon. Oh, okay, it's not that expensive. So, I mean, versus car parts, you know, they're more expensive, so they try to, the cost is higher. So from a business point of view, they try to utilize every single part of it. Whereas for food, like, we see it as, you know, it's not as costly compared to these parts. So I think that is, I really like your idea. I think that's a great direction. I don't know how we can implement it or make it happen, simply just because food is more accessible compared to these parts, and you can get food anywhere. And I think that's where people's mindset come in to say, okay, since we can get it everywhere, then might as well I can get another one like really quickly. So I really like your idea. Yeah.
Any other reactions or?